The phone is sitting on the desk, a black slab of silence that feels louder than a bomb blast. Look at Adam Pearce's hand. It's hovering over the receiver, trembling, the knuckles white with a tension that has been building for 72 agonizing hours. The general manager of Monday Night Raw, the man who, just 3 days ago, stood tall in the center of the ring and severed the head of the snake by firing Paul Heyman, is now staring at that phone like it's the only lifeline on a sinking ship. He isn't the confident executive we saw on January 19th. He's a ghost. His tie is loosened, his eyes are rimmed with red, sleepless circles, and the office behind him is a wreck of crumpled papers and broken coffee mugs. Because Adam Pearce has realized something terrifying. He didn't save the WWE. He didn't clean up the locker room. He just opened the gates of hell, and he threw away the only key. By the time this video ends, you are going to witness the most human, heartbreaking, and terrifying collapse of authority in WWE history. You're going to see a man come face to face with the realization that his greatest victory was actually his tombstone. Before we walk down this dark corridor with Adam Pearce, I need to connect with you, the SLAMZONE family. We talk about moments in wrestling, the wins, the losses, the returns. But what about the regrets? What about the decisions that haunt these men long after the cameras stop rolling? If you've ever made a choice you wished you could take back, if you've ever felt the weight of the world crashing down on you because of one mistake, then you understand what we're about to watch. This is the human side of the business that they don't want you to see. So please, if you're ready to go deep into the psychology of this game, hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and leave a comment. We are building a family here that understands the soul of wrestling, not just the moves. Your support keeps us going, and I am so grateful to have you on this ride with me. The broadcast tonight didn't start with fireworks. It didn't start with music. It started with chaos. For the first hour of the show, there was no order. Matches weren't finishing. Referees were being assaulted. The backstage area looked like a war zone. Without the wise man navigating the politics, the Bloodline has gone rogue in a way we've never seen. Solo Sikoa isn't waiting for matches, he's hunting. The locker room is terrified. And every time a producer screams for order, they look to the gorilla position, expecting Adam Pearce to be barking commands. But the chair is empty. Pearce has been missing all night. Rumors were flying on social media that he had walked out, that the pressure of the Fire Pearce movement after the Seth Rollins debacle had finally broken him. But then, at the top of the second hour, the music hit. It wasn't a triumphant entrance. The drums of his theme song sounded hollow. Adam Pearce walked out onto the stage, and the atmosphere in the arena shifted instantly. It wasn't just heat. It wasn't just booze. It was a suffocating wave of hostility. The fans held up signs, "We want Paul, you ruined Raw, fix it." Pearce walked slowly, his eyes scanning the crowd not with authority, but with fear. He looked like a man walking to the gallows. He climbed the steel steps, every movement heavy and labored. He entered the ring, the ropes shaking under his grip, and requested a microphone. But the sound guy didn't give it to him immediately. Even the production crew seemed to be hesitating, sensing the volatility in the air. Finally, he got the mic. He stood in the center of the spotlight, the same spot where he had fired Paul Heyman just days ago. The visual contrast was staggering. Then, he stood tall, flanked by Nick Aldis. Now, he was alone. Utterly, painfully alone. He tried to speak. "Ladies and gentlemen." The booing was so loud it distorted the audio feed. It was a wall of sound, a physical force pushing him back. He lowered the mic, wiping sweat from a forehead that was already glistening under the hot lights. He waited. He paced. He looked at the turnbuckle where Heyman had begged for his job. You could see the memory playing out in his eyes. You could see the ghost of Paul Heyman on his knees, clutching his suit jacket. Pearce raised the mic again, his voice cracking. I did what I thought was right." "No you didn't," a fan screamed from the front row, clear as day. Pearce flinched. He looked directly at the fan, and for the first time in his career as an authority figure, he didn't argue back. He nodded. A slow, defeated nod. "You're right," Pearce whispered. The microphone caught it. The crowd hushed. "You're right." He took a deep breath, and the facade crumbled. "For 5 years, I have tried to run this ship with dignity. I have tried to enforce the rules in a place that celebrates breaking them. And when Nick and I made the decision to terminate Paul Heyman's contract, we thought we were cutting out the cancer." He laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "We thought we were removing the manipulation, the backroom deals, the politics." He walked to the ropes, leaning on them heavily, looking like he might collapse if he let go. "But I forgot the most important rule of the jungle. You don't kill the zookeeper when the cages are full of lions." The crowd murmured. They were starting to understand. This wasn't a promo, this was a confession. Since Monday, Pearce continued, his voice trembling with rising emotion, "My phone hasn't stopped ringing. Not from the board of directors. Not from the network. But from the hospitals. Solo Sikoa put 2 referees in the ER last night. Jacob Fatu put a producer through a windshield in the parking lot this morning. The bloodline isn't broken, ladies and gentlemen. The bloodline is unleashed. He turned back to the center of the ring, tears welling in his eyes. Paul Heyman wasn't the villain. I see that now. Paul Heyman was the dam. He was the only thing holding back the flood. He was the whisper that kept the monsters from tearing this company apart. And I, in my arrogance, I silenced the whisper. The vulnerability was palpable. You could feel the energy in the room shift from anger to pity, and then to fear. Pearce wasn't just regretting a firing, he was terrified of the consequences. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a piece of paper. It was crumbled, stained with coffee. He unfolded it with shaking hands. I have here a reinstatement contract, Pearce said, his voice barely audible. I have prepared a contract that gives Paul Heyman everything he wanted. Double the salary. Full creative control of his clients. Immunity from firing. He held the paper up, a white flag of surrender waving in the spotlight. Paul, if you are watching this, please, I am begging you, come back. Come back and put the leash back on the dogs before there is nothing left of this company to manage. He looked at the entrance ramp, his eyes wide, hopeful, desperate. He waited. We all waited. The silence stretched for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, a minute. The crowd started to buzz. Was he here? Would the walrus walk down that ramp with that smug grin and save Adam Pearce from his own mistake? Nothing. The stage remained empty. The lights didn't flicker. The only sound was the hum of the ventilation system and the ragged breathing of Adam Pearce in the microphone. Paul, Pearce called out, his voice breaking into a sob. Please. Still nothing. Pearce dropped his hand, the contract fluttering to the canvas like a dead leaf. He covered his face with his hands. The image of the strong general manager was gone. In his place was a man who realized he had made a mistake that couldn't be fixed. He had played God, and now the devils were coming for him. I have to stop for a second because the tension in this script is absolutely suffocating. We are watching a man beg for his life on national television. If you are on the edge of your seat, if you are feeling the gravity of this situation, please hit that like button, subscribe to SLAMZONE, and join the family. We do this every week, breaking down the raw emotion of this sport, and I want you there for every twist and turn. Suddenly, the lights did go out. But it wasn't the slow, theatrical dimming of a Paul Heyman entrance. It was a hard cut to black. The arena plunged into darkness. A low, guttural growl echoed over the PA system. It wasn't music. It was a soundscape of doom. Red spotlights snapped on, bathing the ring in the color of blood. And there, standing behind Adam Pearce, was not Paul Heyman. It was Solo Sikoa. It was Jacob Fatu. It was Tama Tonga. The bloodline. But they looked different. Without Heyman to dress them, without Heyman to groom them, they looked feral. Solo wasn't wearing his taped thumb, his hands were bare. Fatu had a wild look in his eyes, foaming at the mouth. They didn't look like superstars. They looked like predators who had found an open door. Pearce turned around slowly. He saw them. He didn't run. He didn't try to fight. He just looked at Solo Sikoa, and in that look, you saw the acceptance of his fate. He knew. Solo stepped forward. He didn't have a microphone. He didn't need one. He looked down at the reinstatement contract lying on the mat the paper Pearce had offered to Heyman. Solo picked it up. He looked at it, then looked at Pearce. Slowly, deliberately, Solo ripped the contract in half. Then in quarters. He let the pieces fall like snow over Pearce's polished shoes. The message was clear: we don't want him back. We like it this way. The beatdown that followed was hard to watch. It wasn't a wrestling attack. It was a mugging. Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu grabbed Pearce by the arms, holding him up like a sacrifice. Solo Sikoa wound up, his fist clenched, and delivered a Samoan spike that nearly took Pearce's head off. Pearce collapsed, choking, clutching his throat. But they weren't done. They cleared the announce table. Not the English table, the Spanish table, the French table. They cleared everything. They dragged Pearce's limp body out of the ring. The referees poured out from the back, the same referees Pearce had failed to protect all night. They tried to stop it, but Fatu took them out like bowling pins. Super kick. Super kick. A clothesline that turned a referee inside out. This is where legends are made, ladies and gentlemen, but sometimes legends are made of nightmares. Solo Sikoa dragged Adam Pearce onto the announce table. He climbed the barricade. He looked up at the sky, not acknowledging a tribal chief, not acknowledging a wise man, but acknowledging only the violence. He leaped. The splash drove Adam Pearce through the table with a force that shook the cameras. The crunch was sickening. "Oh my God," screamed the commentary team, their voices breaking professional character. "Stop it. You've killed him." But the bloodline stood tall over the wreckage. Solo Sikoa looked down at the broken body of the general manager. He leaned down, grabbed a headset that had fallen off the table, and spoke into it. His voice was deep, gravelly, and terrifying. "No more wisdom," Solo growled. "Only war." He dropped the headset. The show didn't end with a logo. It didn't end with music. It ended with a wide shot of the arena. The fans were silent. The ring was empty. The table was shattered. And Adam Pearce lay in the debris, his hand twitching, reaching out for a piece of paper that was no longer there. He wanted to save the WWE from Paul Heyman. In doing so, he destroyed it. What a moment. What a catastrophic, defining moment for the future of this company. We always say be careful what you wish for, but Adam Pearce just lived that cliché in the most brutal way possible. He removed the brain, and now the body is thrashing out of control. Regret is a powerful thing. It eats you from the inside out. Tonight, we saw it eat Adam Pearce alive. He thought he was the authority. He thought he was the law. But without the nuance, without the dirty work that Paul Heyman did in the shadows, Pearce was just a man standing in front of a hurricane with an umbrella. The question now is, what happens next? Who runs Raw? Is Pearce done? And where is Paul Heyman? Is he sitting at home, watching this on a monitor, sipping a drink and smiling? Or is he terrified too? Because even Paul Heyman might not be able to put this genie back in the bottle. This is the darkest timeline, folks. The inmates aren't just running the asylum, they burned the asylum down and are dancing in the ashes. I want to know what you think. Was Pearce right to fire Heyman originally? Did he deserve this? And do you think Heyman will come back to save him, or will he let the Bloodline finish the job? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one of them because your theories are what make this community so special. And please, if this story gripped you, if you felt the emotion of this collapse, hit that like button, subscribe to SLAMZONE, and join the family. We will be tracking this story every single day. We aren't going anywhere. This is where legends are made, and tonight, we watched a leader fall. Stay safe, stay passionate, and keep watching. This is SLAMZONE, signing off.